Chcemy widzowie obejrzeć film o glitchach w Dark Souls 2? No jakby nie patrzeć, jest to najbardziej p***na gra Fromu. Bardzo dziwna, może też dziwne glitche będą miały tutaj miejsce. Let's go! Oczywiście napisy polskie.
The mention of Dark Souls 2 doesn't normally follow a lot of positive sentiment. Does this game have issues? Quite a lot of them, I'd say. But I don't hate Dark Souls 2.
Kurde, ja im więcej gram w Dark Soulsy 2, tym bardziej je lubię przez to, jak są dziwne, pokrętne i po prostu inne. To jest unikalne doświadczenie. Bardzo. Zaraz ktoś powie, to czemu nie lubisz Lordsów? Nie wiem, może po prostu jestem jakiś biased. Wydaje mi się, że Dark Soulsy 2 są o wiele ciekawsze, bardziej rozbudowane i jednak przemyślane o wiele bardziej niż Lordsy, które są tworem, zróbmy Souls-like'a. W Dark Soulsach 2 jest próba wyjścia trochę poza ten boks, który Miyazaki narzucił DS-ami 1. W wielu miejscach nieudane wyjście z tego boksa. Znaczy, nieudane, bardzo udane, może nawet nad wyraz, bo zrobiono kilka przedziwnych mechanik, które to raczej wkurzają, utrudniają lub po prostu dziwią graczy, ale no ciekawym eksperymentem trzeba to nazwać. Natomiast było to jakieś doświadczenie zebrane przez team, które pozwoliło potem stworzyć przeróżne inne Souls-like'i od Fromu i to się ceni. Były dobre pomysły, jak Power Stancing, były złe pomysły, jak Klątwa. Były dobre pomysły, jak takie, powiedzmy, terenowe zagadki, odpalanie pochodni w przystani niczyja po to, żeby odstraszać potwory, które boją się światła. To takie coś przychodzi mi do głowy. Z drugiej strony adaptacja, prawda, która była absolutnie do dupy. Każdy wie, że Elden to Dark Souls 2.2, a czy w dużej mierze faktycznie Elden jest podobny do Dark Soulsów 2, tylko dobrze zrobionych. To tak jak masz Resident Evil 9, Requiem, ono jest w dużej mierze podobne nawet do 6 czy 5, ale jest po prostu dobrze zrobione. Gdzie 5 i 6 Resident no raczej nie są uznawane za dobre przez wielu, nie?
In fact, I think the game's 3 DLCs are some of the best in the Souls series, and if you were to buy the game today, you get all these pre-included. So yes, although the original unpatched release of Dark Souls 2 is fundamentally more broken, it's also a lot harder to access today if you didn't buy the game back in 2014. So, to keep things relevant, in this video I'm only going to be focusing on exploits you can still do today on the latest patch of Scholar of the First Sin.
No, Scholar jest najpopularniejszą wersją w tym momencie, nawet jak sobie porównamy na Steam Database. Ja wiem, że to jest film o glitchach, ale muszę coś sobie na statystyki popatrzeć, jestem nienormalny. To, w ogóle patrzę, że Krabik się powoli wybija. Polecam tę gierkę, widzowie. W Krabiku było 20 000 osób 3 dni temu. Jest filmik na kanale Skraba, zajebista gra. Ale pomijając tę wstawkę, Dark Souls 2 Scholar of the First Sin, no jak sobie spojrzymy, no to tutaj mamy pik 12 000 graczy, ale w tym momencie gra 2000. Dzisiaj ogólnie 2600 w piku. A jak sobie spojrzymy na Dark Souls 2 zwykłe, no to mamy 342 osoby i 581. A pokaż, jak to w ogóle w porównaniu wygląda do Dark Soulsów 3. Jestem przeciekawy. Znacznie więcej, 2 razy w Dark Soulsach 3 niż w Scholarze w 2. A jak porównasz do Eldena, choćby o tej godzinie 4 w nocy, no dla nas 4 wiadomo, na świecie to różnie, prawie 30 000, a niesamowite to jest. A Dark Soulsy Remastered 3100. A Dark Soulsy Prepared to Die Edition 139 osób. Wybrańcy. A w Night Rainie ile osób siedzi? 12, ładnie. A w Sekiro ile? 2, dobra, starczy mi.
Version I think most people have anyway. That said, let's break this game.
Zniszczymy Dark Souls 2. O czym jest ta seria, jeżeli ktoś pierwszy raz tutaj jest? Po pierwsze, polecam obejrzeć poprzednie odcinki, to raz. Seria polega na tym, żeby jak najbardziej ułatwić sobie grę, z jak najmniejszą ilością bossów, przeciwników walczyć, skipować różne rzeczy, glitchować różne rzeczy, co samo w sobie jest trudne, ale jednak to główne wyzwanie gry w jakiś sposób ogrywać. I te filmy są kompilacjami niejako takich rzeczy, które dalej są aktualne. To jest ciekawe i ważne, bo te rzeczy są regularnie patchowane i czasami mogłoby się stać tak, że film jest nieaktualny. Gość tutaj stara się te takie już po patchach i to srogich rzeczy przedstawiać.
You probably already know about the firebomb clip in the Forest of Fallen Giants, but just in case you don't, I'll touch on it really quickly.
Muszę to przerwać. Co to jest za nuta w tle? Jakaś zajebista. Ty słyszysz to?
You probably already know about the firebomb clip in the Forest of Fallen Giants, but just in case you don't, I'll touch on it really quickly.
Może jest w opisie. W chuj ludzi pytało chyba. Wykurwiste! Dobre do tła, dobra. Wracając do filmu.
You probably already know about the firebomb clip in the Forest of Fallen Giants, but just in case you don't, I'll touch on it really quickly. From the Cardinal Tower bonfire where you find Melentia, the intended path has the player climbing down the ladder, working your way outside and climbing a giant root, then clearing a path along the castle wall to the area where the pursuer spawns. There's a hollow soldier that throws firebombs from the top of this ledge, and if one of his bombs hits these explosive barrels
Jest tu
from the
ściana
wall,
do zniszczenia.
it'll blow a
Tak.
hole in it and give you a shortcut back to the
Zajebiste.
bonfire. But when a firebomb hits something, it has a small explosion radius, and this is big enough to trigger the barrels through the wall if you throw it at point blank
Oj,
range.
to na speedrunie
So
widzieliśmy.
ever since this
Zajebiste
glitch
to
was
jest.
spread around,
Kupujesz
the first thing
bomby,
most people do upon reaching this bonfire is buy a single firebomb from Malentia for 200 souls, take it over to the right wall,
i...
and immediately blow their own face off.
Pyk.
And no hate, I'm one of those people too. Once you have the
Genialne.
wall open, you might as well do the second glitch in this area, the Pursuer Quick Kill. Normally,
To
when you
też na
climb the ladder
speedrunie
to the top of
widzieliśmy i
this ledge, a
zastanawialiśmy się
giant crow
jak.
flies overhead and drops the Pursuer down as a mini-boss. You only get one shot to kill him here, and if you die, he moves on to the boss room at the end of the forest. With no familiarity to his moves, most new players are overwhelmed and have to wait until later to get his soul and the Ring of Blades. Unless, of course, they just kill him with the bonfire. This glitch is pretty simple. The trick is, you don't actually have to climb up the ladder to trigger the
Nie,
crow.
tutaj bokiem idziesz.
The game has a hitbox around the ladder's halfway point that it uses to spawn the Pursuer, but it doesn't check to see that you're actually climbing on it. What this means is that you can jump onto the ledge of the wall, jump past the ladder to touch this invisible hitbox, and then immediately sprint back to the bonfire to rest. The bonfire will try to reset the Pursuer's position, but since he doesn't have a respawn point, it kills him
Fajne.
instead. Just remember that the Pursuer only spawns at this location once, so if you get killed on your way back, or take too long and he despawns on his own, you won't get another shot with the current character. Before we leave the forest, there's one more exploit we can pull off. From the outside of the Cardinal Tower bonfire, we see the giant tree and the corpse hanging
Można
from
się
the
tam
scaffolding on
dostać.
the opposite side of the valley that holds a fragrant branch of yore. You're supposed to drop down and pick up this branch after collecting a king's ring much later on, but it's possible to jump from the scaffolding platform
Można
with the
skoczyć.
two hollow soldiers down onto the corner of the opposite cliff, and then walk up the wall like a ramp to get the fragrant branch early. I'm leaving a message on the spot you're supposed to jump to, so let me know if you see it. Now there is some debate over whether this was actually an intended method of obtaining the branch. The ramp upward is suspiciously easy to climb after all, but I do know for a fact that this next version was definitely unintended. Once again, at the top near the bonfire, a backstep can allow you up onto the wall's edge, and then if you walk all the way to the corner, and your jump button is set to L3, it's possible to just barely make the jump to the highest platform,
Ja
above where the
pierdolę,
fragrant
genialne.
branch would be, which means you
Jakie
can
to
light
jest
the bonfire behind
precyzyjne,
the
ile
king's
tutaj
door
trzeba ćwiczeń i perfekcji w czymś takim, ale no satysfakcjonujące jest to niezwykle.
early. You have to use L3 as the
Nie
jump button
potrzebujesz
because you'll have to
pierścienia, ty byś tu był tak późno w progresie Dark Souls 2. Jeden skok to załatwia. Nie zabijanie żadnego bossa, nie? Etap.
holding down your sprint button for the duration of the jump in order to make the distance. You'll also take a ton of fall damage, which means the cat ring is going to be mandatory unless you have an obscene amount of HP. Okay, but what if you're not interested in buying the cat ring at all? Well, check this out. You know the giant hole in Majula. It sucks. It's basically a convoluted HP check to make sure that you can't survive the first fall and get to the Rotten without investing a ton of souls into Vigor, the cat ring, or one of Gilligan's ladders after Earthen Peak. Speedrunner Distortion 2 didn't like any of those options, so he did this.
Cztery. I z parowaniem na dół.
Probably won't work.
Because Dark Souls 2 has a different game engine than the other games in the series, you can do some really weird stuff with the parries and critical attacks.
To już widzieliśmy
By
kiedyś.
pissing off an NPC in Majula and parrying
W
them at the
Eldenie tak
very
możesz
edge of the
robić.
giant well, they will fall backwards into the hole. Performing a critical in this game is much slower than in Dark Souls 1 or 3, and while the slow animation is playing out, the NPC we parried is still falling. So when the attack animation finally finishes and your character is snapped to the enemy's location to deal damage, we are teleported to the bottom of the giant well, taking none, or at least very little, fall damage. Speedrunners use this technique to get into the gutter more quickly, but nothing's stopping you from trying it in other locations as well. Speaking of getting to places you aren't supposed to be, FromSoft really missed the mark when designing the Moon Butterfly set. Or maybe really hit the mark, depending on your outlook. Drop a bonfire aesthetic at Majula and spend at least 15k souls with Maulin to unlock the set for purchase. All four pieces have a
Po co?
passive poisoning effect to nearby enemies and NPCs,
O kurwa.
and that's what this set's known for. But the wings and skirt also increase length of jump, according to the game. This description is kind of a misnomer. They actually decrease the distance you can jump,
Przedłuża
but they make you fall more slowly.
ta
And here's the
czas
kicker,
opadania.
allow you to jump at any time by pressing L3. Abusing this stationary jumping can allow you to climb up parts of the environment where there isn't enough room to get a running start, getting out of bounds in all sorts of areas.
Ej, zajebisty item, nie
I'm
wiedziałem, że
not
on
kidding.
istnieje,
You can do
kurwa.
this somewhere in pretty much every area
Ale
of this game.
świetne.
The armor can give you access to parts of the stage the developers never intended you to see, and in some cases, skip huge portions of stages as a whole. For example, from the Cardinal Tower bonfire in the Forest of Fallen Giants, you can jump off of the ledge surrounding the ladder just outside to land on the stone ridge down below. Run down the ridge and jump over the giant root to get past the stone debris, and then walk into the debris from the back to fall through the floor and get to see the entirety of the forest from the inside out. The game thinks you're in the room that leads to the Soldier's Rest bonfire, thus the dark lighting.
Out of
Maybe bring a
bounds.
torch. You can do the same thing in the dragon area by jumping along the outside of this railing, then onto the hitbox of the rock wall just beyond it. Be careful not to jump too far or walk off too quickly though, since it is a bottomless pit on the other side. Once you fall down to the bottom, walk backwards under the hitbox of the floor and check out the entire stage from underneath. The enemies can't quite figure out where you are, and there are some weird level assets that were meant to go unseen. Just be careful where you step down here.
Zajebista ciekawostka. Nie wiedziałem, że ten set
As for
kurwa
something more
istnieje.
practical,
On ogólnie wygląda, przyjrzyjcie się temu, jakby był jakimś losowym asetem z gry jeszcze 10 lat wcześniej wyprodukowanej. Kto wie, czy tak nie było, ale jednak to jest Dark Souls 2, to jest miks kurwa wszystkiego, stary.
you can use this out of bounds technique to skip a section of Harvest Valley. The butterfly set isn't mandatory for this one, but it does make it easier. At the top of the ladder near the Desert Sorceress and Bonfire lever, carefully slow walk around the right side of the rocky wall, then use the L3 jump to land on top of the mountainous wall that's meant to separate Harvest Valley from Earthen Peak. Hop down below and get a bit of an early start on the next area.
Skipek. Fajne.
And in Broom Tower, if you combine the cat ring with another piece of fall reducing gear like the Jester legs, their fall reducing effects will stack, allowing you to survive the drop onto one of the hanging stone knights and skip directly from the foyer to the lowermost floor bonfire where the Fume Knight awaits. Or, if you have
Dojebany
no fall
skip.
reduction gear at all, you can do it this way instead. Try and be quick with your jump attack
Co
though.
ty gadasz?
You won't stay floating in this position for long.
Kurde, a ta wieża jest bardzo irytująca do przechodzenia, a Fume Knight
Let's move
fajny
on to
boss.
bosses. If you've seen any Dark Souls 2 speedrun, you've seen this. In Hyde's Tower, you're supposed to pull these levers throughout the stage to expand the floor of the boss arena, giving you more room to fight.
Czekaj, serio możesz dodać podłogę do tego fighta? Ja tego nigdy nie zrobiłem. Co kurwa? Ja myślałem, że by design ta arena jest tak mała. Naprawdę? To jest właśnie Dark Souls 2. I to jest coś, co ja lubię. To jest tak dziwne. Za każdym razem, jak grasz tę grę, czegoś nowego się dowiesz. Autentycznie tak to działa.
But leaving it at its smallest
Na
offers
moim
you
pierwszym playthrough ten Dragon Rider spadł mi przypadkiem, oj, wielu ludziom. I jest to wykorzystywane do dzisiaj, nie? Żeby po prostu go zcheezować.
unique advantage. After you step into the fog gate,
Ale no
stand
nie
still
wiedziałem,
and
że tu
count
miała być
5 the Dragon
podłoga, jak
Rider
sobie
steps
dźwignię
as you walks towards
pociągniesz.
you. Then sprint to the right side of him to
O,
bait a
dokładnie to
lunge.
jest ten glitch, znaczy
The
glitch,
Dragon Rider will
cheese.
almost always fall out of bounds from the strategy. It's one of the easiest and most consistent tricks you can do in DS2. Although you can't make Scorpioness ZNISZCZYĆ fall in a hole, it is possible to glitch out her AI.
Wejść na
Stand
drzewo
behind her to
możesz,
bait
czy
the
co?
tail slam, and once both stingers are flat on the ground, it's possible to run up them and onto her back if you're quick enough. Since most enemy AI in Dark Souls is based on your position relative to the enemy, she has no idea what to do when you're both in the same spot. This exploit is an especially easy one to do. As long as you keep your feet stationary, she'll never move, making for
O
an easy
co
target.
chodzi?
Having a bow on hand is super useful here. You can literally shoot her in the head until she dies.
A to mamy
Pretty
miniaturkę na
simple
YouTube'a.
stuff. It's amazing it's never got a patch.
Fenomenalne. To wskoczenia na bossa jeszcze nie widziałem, kurwa, w tych odcinkach.
You can take this a step further with ZNISZCZYĆ and disable her AI entirely if you wish. After you defeat the Throne Watcher and Defender, you'll get a pop-up letting you know you obtained their souls.
Warto dodać, że te bossy, znaczy jeden z nich, ten biały, może spaść poza arenę, nie?
Instead of closing it, leave it up.
Możesz to ograć, chodząc chyba dokładnie gdzieś tam.
When
Przy
Chandra's about to
wejściu po
spawn, the
lewej.
box will go away on its own. When that happens, if you take a roll forward from this specific tile, aim up toward the ceiling, and then toss 2 consumables like a firebomb, urn, or holy water toward ZNISZCZY's spawn point, this should create the perfect timing to have her spawn on top of the items you threw, which breaks her AI and prevents her from ever moving or attacking at all. Nishandra isn't a particularly difficult boss, but it is especially satisfying to break the final boss of the game.
No pewnie.
And no, Aldia does not count. Be warned, this was the most difficult glitch for me to pull
O,
off by
tutaj chyba
far.
może
And
spaść
since it
typek.
requires the Throne Watcher and Defender to be alive when you start it,
No.
you'll only get one shot at it per playthrough. Make a backup of your save data, because this one is going to require practice. Moving on to something much easier, I can't tell you how to glitch out the other bosses, but I do know of a way to make them less dangerous. The Bright Bug is an obscenely overpriced consumable item sold by Malintia, added into the
Kopiowanie?
game with the release of the first DLC. Their stock is limited, and the further you progress in Drangleic, the more she raises the price. While in effect, it increases both your damage and defenses by 20% for 2 minutes, so they're an item every build can benefit from, but the limited stock and short duration make them mostly impractical for realistic use. If only we could make them last longer. It's not fully understood why this glitch works, but there are several specific locations in the game where if you pop the item and then quit out, when you reload, the Bright Bug will still be in effect, and it will last forever.
No pierdolisz, że możesz się wzmocnić Bright Bugiem. To jest tak OP. 20% defensywy i ataku na zawsze. Co? To jest
This
ogromny
would be
buff.
powerful enough if it was only a damage
Świetlik
buff.
jest tak
Since it
broken.
also buffs your defenses, the Bright Bug alone is enough to swing even some of the most difficult boss fights in your favor. The first place you can pull this off is in the Grave of Saints, from inside the
No
Royal
dlatego jest
Wrath
tak
Vanguard
ograniczony
boss room.
ilościowo i cenowo, nie?
This one only works if Roy the Explorer has currently invaded you, and the bonfire before the boss is unlit. Again, no idea why. It's not the most convenient, but it is one of the earliest locations you can activate the glitch. Since you were in a boss room, you'll respawn outside the fog with a permanent 20% buff in effect. You can do the same thing with the Skeleton Lord's boss room as well, which I prefer since I tend to go to Huntsman's Copse before the Grave of Saints anyway. Step inside the fog, pop the bug inside the arena, and then quit and reload to make its duration infinite. Pretty simple. It also works in the Doors of Pharaohs, in the corner of the circular room where Gavlan spawns.
Kurwa, czemu w tych
No invaders or
konkretnych
boss fog
miejscach tak
necessary
to
this
działa?
time, and it's a
Jaka ta
great
gra
place
jest
to prepare
dziwna.
for Brightstone Cove and the Duke's Dear Freya up ahead.
Jaka ta gra jest
You
dziurawa.
can do the glitch in Drangleic Castle, at the wall of the castle's entrance, just inside the gate, which could be nice to do before you get swarmed by Stone Knights and Ruin Sentinels a bit later on. Or you could do it on the elevator platform that leads to Shrine of Amana, just past the Mirror Knight boss room, near the elevator's lever. And if that doesn't work for you, you could also do it just outside the Demon of Song's boss room at the end of the shrine. The last place I know of is Broom Tower, from the foyer bonfire in the next room over, on top of the 3 pots of water. If you quit and reload with an active Bright Bug in any of these locations, its timer should glitch out and become infinite. There are probably still more locations that this works in, but the Bright Bug glitch is relatively new, and there are definitely more discoveries to be made regarding its use. The glitch Bright Bug
To
timer
jest
will
ciekawe, co on wspomina, że w zasadzie te gry mają jeszcze więcej glitchy i to wszystko jest kwestia czasu, kiedy one zostaną znalezione. I jasne, w przypadku Dark Soulsów 2 Scholara mówimy o 10 latach już ponad istnienia, ale na pewno coś się jeszcze znajdzie. I z reguły znajdują to speedrunnerzy, no bo im jest to przydatne, nie?
be reset from a loading screen, so dying or warping will cancel it out,
To sam
which
jest
is why it might
w
be
sobie
useful.
film sprzed kilku lat, nie? 5-letni film. Możliwe, że już jest coś nowego.
To have its multiple locations memorized. This glitch is a game changer for blazing through a difficult area, and a godsend for players attempting a no-death, no-bonfire run. It's perfect for that use case actually, since those runs have very few loading screens throughout their entirety.
To jest fenomenalny pomysł, żeby użyć tego na ranie permadeath. Jak masz jakiś randomizer i trafi ci się Brightbug, wykorzystać to bardzo dobrze, nie?
You've never done one of those? Maybe it's your time to shine.
I właśnie o to chodzi
As
w tych filmach. Ja to oglądam jasne dla ciekawostek, bo po prostu lubię te gry i chcę je znać na wylot zawsze, ale jednocześnie od czasu do czasu znajdzie się coś, co po prostu chcesz użyć i wcale nie jest trudne do zrobienia. No to jest banalne wręcz, z dobrej lokacji użyć itemu.
Glitches? It's all I've got for Scholar of the First Sin. It's definitely less broken than the original Dark Souls 2 release, at least as of right now. That can always change in the future as new exploits get discovered. As always, feel free to drop your thoughts below, along with any glitches you know of that I might have missed.
Oj tak, w komentarzach piszcie o innych glitchach, które znacie, zawsze, bo ja chętnie przeczytam, chętnie się dowiem, co tam macie w Scholarze, oczywiście.